So a few days ago, Mumbo shared this amazing build done by JackyBoyMC over on his Instagram story, and then a few days later, he showed it again in his latest Hermitcraft episode. And after seeing that a second time, I had an idea of how to do that without using structure blocks and without using command blocks. So the next day, instead of working on my exam, I ended up making this guy. You can see it's fully animated, fully expressed, and have different emotions that he shuffles through. And even though this is not anything new, I still want to share it because I actually really liked how this turned out. So let's get over and see how it works. The main mechanic behind this is that instead of doing the instead of using redstone lamps or copper bulbs for the display, we're using maps on item frames, specifically on glow item frames. So if I destroy this, you can see this is a glow item frame. This has some advantages and some disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is that, well, since this is a 16 by 16 display, but each pixel is 2 blocks wide, so we only have like 8 by 8 pixels. This is 256 stacks. No, this is 256 maps, which can create a lot of lag. So what I tend to do is, when I'm not working on this, I would just like destroy all of the dispensers and all of the maps to stop some of the lag. But one of the benefits from it is that you don't have to have it be white. If you instead wanted the look of like an old school computer, you can even do it with like a green color instead. Or if you want to do any other color, like if you're like me, you might want something that is a bit more pink. Well, and you could even do any kind of map art on it if you wanted to instead. That's up to you, up to your imagination. But I do think, even though I'm slightly biased towards the pink one, I think my favorite is just the plain white version that we started off with. Another one of the downsides is also, since that we're using powdered snow that's being dispensed, if you're up close, you will see the particles of the blocks being placed. That's also why I started off over here in the beginning, because from 64 blocks away, you don't see those particles. So it just looks a bit more like animated and you don't see all the particles. Another downside is that if you go too far away, then you don't render the maps anymore and you just see the dispensers behind. um, you can still kind of see the face, which is kind of cool, but it's definitely better when you do render the maps. I should also mention like some of the downsides from using some of the other forms of screen displays that I've seen is that, well, if you're doing it with redstone lamp or copper bulbs, then you're kinda restricted to having either of these patterns. Like you would either need to have this brownish colored screen or this orange or like any other of the wax copper bulbs. Like you would need to have a screen in any of these colors, which probably isn't which isn't always ideal. And then this has a bit more freedom with the colors, especially. You can't really do anything about the black, I think, because it's just because of the tinted glass that it's black. Another benefit from that, compared to the one that Mumbo is using in in his season 10 Hermitcraft base, his main screen that he's going to upload his brain into, I think, um, is using trapdoors like over here, and some of the downside of that is that you have those lines all the way across, which also means that if you look at it from different angles, the illusion is kinda not as strong. This also happens with this design, since that, let's look at the mouse, you can see that there is an indent from where the powder snow is and where the maps are. But like, even if you look like something like this, or like here, you can still see the smile and the eyebrows. And if you look at from it down here, you can also see pretty much all of it, where this is just, well, you can still see the smile, but you can see the black screen. So I think this works better in those occasions. But again, downsides are the lag, and then also just having to create a full map of one color. That stuff is never fun. Let's just say it like that. So, how does this thing work? Well, as I said, there's no new technology here. While we talk about this, I'll just turn all of these off. Basically, so the way this displays work is with these, as I mentioned, these glowing item frames that are being covered up by powdered snow, which is being dispensed from, who would have guessed it, a dispenser. I learned this trick from CraftyMasteran, but I think that Vinicius13 showed it off earlier. They are a Brazilian YouTuber. I think Vinicius13 was the first to showcase this, and then CraftyMasteran discovered it like independently and then shared it. But at least that's where I know it from. And all of the mechanics behind this, like this looks complicated, but it is rather simple. And all of the mechanics here I've actually stolen from Mattbattwing. He does a lot of cool computational redstone. And he had this video about redstone displays. And he showcased this design over here. It is very slightly different to the one we're using over here. Basically what this does, I'm using diorite here for D for display, D for diorite. Basically it just makes sure that all of the pixels, so all of the 2x2 gets lit up at the same time, as we can see here. But since we're using dispensers, it kinda almost worked like AET flip-flop, like you switch it on and then switch it off. So that's why I have with the cover balls over here. And the only difference between this design over here and the one we're using is that all of these blocks here doesn't need to be there. You can see here we don't have those, and it's also shifted. So instead of having all of this a block down, because, well, this redstone torch powers this lamp and this block which powers this lamp, but because I think it's because of quasi connectivity that this redstone torch powers both this and this, so we don't need anything to power the bottom one because it's already being powered and then it's being updated by this dispenser. And then we have all of the rest over here, and those are all different modules of memory. Mattbattwing also showcased this design in this video, but it's by somebody called RTYYYYB, or just RT. And this is a memory cell. I'm not sure if that's the best way of describing it, but basically what it does is that you have this redstone tower, or you have this glass tower with redstone on it. You can see we have it here. And then for each pixel, every time you have a target block instead of just a normal block, that basically chooses which one, which pixels are getting enabled by that input. So for example, over here, I have one, which is like a on and off symbol. So I use this to basically remove the entire face. And you can put it there again. So basically this layer here, where all of these inputs are, they make the entire face. So you can see these are the eyebrows, and then we have the eyes, we have the mouth going up here. And we can look at this in a small section where it's like one layer. And yet basically what you would do is then you would just go in and say, oh, I need this to turn on, replace this with a target block, or if you want it to stay off, place it with a solid block. Basically because when the redstone goes up, it will only attach to the target blocks, which will go into the repeater, blah, blah, blah. Very simple stuff. There's probably a way to condense this. I'm pretty sure there's some way of coding in all of the stages of the expressions of the face or whatever you want on the screen. This is just what I did because that was the easiest way I could figure out how to do it. A really cool thing about this design is that normally if you do something with, let's say, a redstone lamp display, you would need to have a input that stays on and then turns off again. Because, well, if you just do it with a button, then it will turn off again. But since we're using dispensers, we don't need that. And that means that we can like trigger all of the parts separately. Like we don't have to think about if a signal is on or off, or if any of these have the powder snow dispensed, or if they have it removed. Which means that we can basically do all of the different animations in different loops, which means that they will work on independent timing, which means that it'll look a bit more dynamic and it won't just follow one set of animations. What do I mean by that? So over here, we have the one for the eyes. And yes, this is really, really bad. It's just a lot of repeater spam. This is, again, just to get the idea across. And basically what these lines here does is that we have one that removes the eyes, then one that pushes them over a bit, then we have that again, then pushes them to the other side, that again, and then one that puts them in the middle. So you see, if I turn this on, we get this eye animation. I'll look a bit back just so we don't see the particles. And you can see right now, that's the only animation we have. We don't have the mouth, we don't have the eyebrows. But since the eyes don't interact, like any of these pixels right here, they don't like interact with any of the things down here. So we can just go behind all of this and add a animation for the mouth, which is what we have right here. And you can see, since it's a different loop, it has different amounts of repeaters. They won't follow the same thing. Like, it's not like every time the eyes looks to the right, it will frown a bit before smiling again. Right now, it'll do it independently. So maybe we'll see it happen again. You can see now it does it twice before blinking. And now it did it right after blinking. I want to show it while it's looking at different sides. Yeah, you can see that, like, it's almost the same cycle, I think, but I think that the one for the mouth is slightly slower, which means that it'll get more behind on time. Yeah, you can see there, it frowned while in the middle of the animation. And again, that's the exact same thing with, and the way this works is that this line here just remove this part of the smile. And then over here, it just gets placed again. So these two layers actually exactly the same. You could probably condense it to one layer. Again, I just did a short, sweet, and dirty solution. And we have kind of something very similar for the eyebrows. If I turn it back on, and it kind of like goes down here. Basically what we do is that since when we send a signal, it will always do the reverse of what is already there. So we basically just send a signal to both of these pixels, because then this one, which is turned on, will turn off, and then this one down here, which is turned off, will turn on, giving us this animation. And then again, after a short delay, it will do the same again, which will turn this off and turn this one on. And since we work with a bit of a limited amount of space, sometimes those eyes interact a bit with the eyes, so it looks like it's a very big eye. Let's see if I can have that happen. Yeah, you can see there, it looks a bit messy with the eyes, but that's just a bit of the restrictions when doing stuff like this. Yeah, this is very simple. You could probably copy everything I have here just from looking at those small layers. It's just this stacked down, or this stacked down, and then choosing all of the pixels you want to turn on. And you can see, if you look at it right here, you can also see that this is the 2 pixels for the eyebrows, where this is from the top one, this is from the bottom one, so this is the one that'll swap them and then swap them back again. But I do think this is a nice solution if you want to do some kind of animated face, and of course, you're not limited to only doing a face. You could do any kind of things. I know in the JackyBoyMC video, he did this thing where it also changed to a exclamation mark. You could do that pretty easily. You could do something entirely different. You could do, I guess you could do an entire animation. And also one thing, if you wanted to, since that there are a lot of spaces that don't really change at all, it's like all of this part here doesn't change at all, it's always black. And so this part, and so this part. So basically, if you wanted to, you could just not have any maps there, so it doesn't lag as much, because this is quite a laggy build, which is probably the biggest downside, just because that maps and entities are very resource intensive, or not resource intensive, but like it takes up a lot of like stuff. It makes it a bit laggy. I don't know the technical terms. Yeah, but I just wanted to show this off really quickly. It should be pretty easy to do. I will leave a schematic for this in the description. I don't think I'll do a world download, but I'll do a schematic. And it should be pretty easy to just look at this and take these and put it all together into whatever you want to make. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new, even though none of this is any new or innovative stuff. It's just, you know, putting it to use in a new way. That's actually how a lot of Redstone works. It's just that you take stuff that you know how it works, and you take a lot of few elements or few things, and you then put them together into making something new. So I hope you learned something new from this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe, and check out the description for Mumbo's video, JackyBoy's videos, the Redstone display video by Mattbattwings, CraftyMasteran short, and the video by Vinicius13 where he showed it off. And also shout out to RTYYYYYYY, that's too many Y's, RTYYYYB, or RT, for the memory cell. That did help a lot in constructing this. And honestly, like, you could, if anyone like wants to use this for something, and like if you found a way where you don't need to have the memory cells directly behind this, then you could make it really, really thin and actually make something really, really compact and thin and easy to showcase, which you probably wouldn't expect for something that looks like this. Because it generally, to most degree, looks like a computer screen with a pixel face, especially since some of the pixels, like with the smile and with eyebrows, not with the smile, but with the eyebrows, they move at the same time. The reason I didn't do that for the eyes is so it looks like it's blinking. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff you can do with this. This is just a small showcase. And thank you all for watching. Bye 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 bye.